This is going to be focused training for Tertre Rouge, which is turn 8 at Le Mans, and then the Porsche Curves, really focusing on the final left-hander that becomes a slowdown. So I have 4 laps here in a row that I ran pretty solidly, so my goal is to just play through at full speed all 4 of them for each section of the track and then do a slower breakdown. And then I'll do Porsche Curves second. So I am gonna attempt to do this cleanly. I'm trying to program that lets you jump between. Alright, so I'm already at the first one here. So let me just play through these consecutively here. Actually, don't want it to hide my... Alright, I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna do it here because it hides the UI, so you lose my my feedback and whatnot when I do it. And I know that this is a little bit transparent. I just have it turned down for when I stream, but you can still see it pretty good. So there's one lap. Here's the next lap. I missed the apex a little bit there. This was not a slowdown, but it was close. Third lap. And then the 4th lap, and this ends up being my fastest lap of this session that we ran. And that was the one where I didn't run wide at all. Alright, so let's break this down a little bit slower. So up over the crest, you'll go under this little bridgey thing. There's a little bit of an opening and asphalt here. And what I reference is where this flag guy is, where this light is, and there's a little white line that's going across the track here. So what I do is a split second after this disappears from my view, so probably as I'm right next to it, I do a full lift. I really slow this down. So here I'm doing a full lift. I'm applying, I'll call it trail brake. It's probably 20% braking and a slight turn in. You want to get your lefts as close to that white line or on the white line as possible, but be careful because you don't want to clip that grass. You can see I don't have a ton of wheel in it. You can even just see the wheel here. And my goal here is I want to get my right sides right to the inside of this blue and yellow curbing. I want to avoid the yellow. They're not quite turtles, but I want to avoid those. I think if you clip those, it actually does give you a cut. So you definitely don't want to do that. But let's see. You can see where I'm at. So yeah, I get my right sides literally right on the line. And you can see I'm already applying throttle here. I'm playing with the throttle, kind of bouncing around 50% throttle before I commit to full throttle on exit. You can run a little bit into the blue section outside of the curbing here, but the important thing is you have to be back on the track before you reach the end of it. You can kind of go across the end of the curbing here, but anything more than that, I think if you have a left side on this blue when you hit the end of it is what triggers the slowdown. So counting it, I'm probably out of the throttle completely for a second or a second and a half before I start feeding some throttle back into it, and then I wait a little bit before I commit to full throttle. Braking, I really watch my braking here while it goes full speed, and you'll see how little I'm braking and how short it is. A lot of it's just a quick blip of the brake to set the car. Alright. So there's that. Now we're going to tackle probably the trickier section. That's going to be Porsche Curves. So I think as of now, most of us are everybody's kind of figured out the first few turns of Porsche Curves, at least to some extent, but I know the final left-hander is giving people some slowdowns and some fits, and I've tried to explain kind of what I'm doing, but it's kind of difficult, so I'm going to try and break it down a little bit better here. So again, I'll just do these at full speed. I do 5 of them, or 4 of them, I should say. Alright, 1. I was kind of pushing a little bit there. That would be exit there was pretty solid though. Pushing a bit here as well. Missed the apex a bit there. The final one, this is my fastest lap, so I would imagine this is probably the best one I did. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Alright. Let's break this one down. So first things first is I'm trying to get my left sides right to where this dotted line is where the green starts. So where the green starts is where I do my braking, and I will downshift to 5th. I use 5th through all of Porsche Curves until the final right and left hander. I completely out of the throttle, a fair amount of braking, and I actually ride the brake a decent amount of time here. So I'm starting to trail out of it, and then I'm completely out of it. And then I'm flying a little bit more, but I'm still not in the throttle. Still not in the throttle. Alright, so kind of a little bit after the start of this curve on the inside is where I start picking that throttle back up. But you don't want to run really wide to the left here. You want to kind of try and keep it mid-track, or at least get back to mid-track for the left-hander. If you push too wide here, you're going to compromise your entry to the 2 left-handers, and you're just going to lose a lot of speed by not having the proper line. So I'm exiting out to a little bit left of mid-track, but then I'm moving back to the left. And then as I turn in again, I'm lifting out of the throttle ever so slightly, but I'm not braking at all here. Just out of the throttle enough to get it turning, and then I'm already back to full throttle here. Now I know that it's scary to commit to the throttle that much, because you absolutely do not want to hit this wall on the right hand side. But I am full throttle all the way through here. You want to get to the right as far as possible, but be careful of hitting the wall. And then as I do a little turn here, you see I blip out of the throttle again. I'm not completely out of the throttle, so I'm kind of 40-50% here. Applying a little bit, getting there to the left as much as possible. I actually ride the curb a little bit here. I usually don't do that, but I do in this instance. And then I go back to full throttle as I'm kind of straight, very briefly. Now that I have the car pointed straight, you can see I'm starting to put a little bit of wheel into it. I am back at completely out of the throttle, and I'm braking enough to set the car. And it's a little bit more than just setting the car, but it's only 50% throttle. And it lasts, I mean, you're talking maybe half a second. I use it to set the car, and my goal is to ride my right sides either right next to the rumble strip or maybe even on it a little bit. And then you'll see me play with the throttle a little bit here. Once I'm off the brake, I'm off the brake. But I play with the throttle a little bit here, getting the car to rotate. And I'm wanting to get it to the right side, to that white line, without touching the grass. Now, you probably heard me reference a couple times where, and hopefully you can see this, but it's light grass, then dark grass, and light grass, then dark grass, and light grass, then dark grass. So kind of like a football field when they cut the grass. You want to get to the right here. So what I'm finding and what I saw multiple times was people that were pushing wide on exit here were getting too shallow of an entry. So you're entering more over here. You're not getting it hugged all the way to the right here. I mean, you can see how close I am. But I'm in no point am I full throttle through this. Getting close to it, but so right about here is where I'm gonna, and hopefully you can see this, dark grass, light grass, dark grass, light grass. So kind of this transition light to dark grass right here, which would be the second to last transition to dark grass, I guess is the easy way to say it, is where I put wheel into it, and it's just a quick stab of the brakes. I mean, you're only talking 10-20% brake, completely out of the throttle though. Already out of the brake. I play with the throttle a little bit here, and that's just trying to help get the car to rotate. And same thing with Tertre Rouge. You want to get your left sides to the edge of this rumble strip without getting onto the yellow here. And then you throttle out. I'm at full throttle at this point because I have a good trajectory. I wasn't pushing to the right because I was able to get to that curbing on the left. You should aim to get to that curbing on the left. On exit here, you pretty much can't, I don't know what the definitive rule is, but I feel like you can't have a right side on this just black asphalt and yellow striping as you get to the end of it. Might be able to a little bit, or maybe it's you can't have the left side tires touching it, because as you see, yeah. So it's probably you can't have the left side tires on it because I definitely just kissing it ever so slightly. But that was a pretty, for my standards, that was pretty perfect exit there. For time it, speed. That's it. Let me know if you have questions for sure.